Welcome to the Road to Rich podcast, episode 4. I am coming to you today from Turn Up Studios over here at Nakatomi Plaza in downtown Panama City. And man, I am excited to be here today. Have a great guest with me today, Patrick Chapin, the Chamber of Commerce CEO. Patrick, you've been with the Chamber about a year now, and you had a good history of running chambers in other areas like Winter Park and High Point. You had a leadership role at Disney, man. You have some really cool things in your background we want to dig into today. So I'm real excited to talk to you, man. And,
it's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, one of the things that, just initially, I want to, learn from you is, what drew you to Bay County? I know you've been in other places, but what made this home for you?
Yeah, well, I'm a Floridian. So most recently I've been in High Point, North Carolina. So following your footsteps in terms of being a fisherman, I had to grow my gills back and get some sunshine. So wanted to be back in Florida for sure. And I was looking at chambers similar to what we have here. A lot of chambers are the economic development agency as well. Here it's broken out. So, and that's the same way in Winter Park and the same way in High Point. I prefer that. So I prefer kind of having a chamber of community. Obviously, we're here to support business. We're a chamber of commerce. So I was really being deliberate in the type of chamber I wanted to join. When I visited, I was sold. I mean, the optimism here, and great people. I mean, it really,
it's incredible.
It really is amazing.
And the folks over at the Bay EDA, I mean, Becca and her team, they are rock stars over there. So you couldn't ask for better folks to work with on the economic development side.
Absolutely. I mean, they are crushing it.
Yeah, and that you bring up a good point. There is so much positivity here in the area, and we just had some elections the other day, and I think those are pretty exciting things that have come out of that. The positivity, and especially after the hurricane, there's so much momentum that we have going on in this area. Is that something that you've already seen in your time here?
Absolutely. The downtown here in Panama City is a great example. The revitalization. It's a privilege to have the chamber sort of leading some of these big charges as well. So there's definitely a lot happening, and it's been a great ride so far. I mean, it's only been about a year, and it's amazing how much I've learned and how much I have to learn.
Yeah, that year went by quick, too.
It did, absolutely.
So, I mean, it doesn't feel like you've been here over a year, but you have, man. Yeah. So that's it's awesome, and man, I'm pumped to have you here. And I love Carol Roberts. She is wonderful. Somebody I greatly admire. But I also like that you have a fresh perspective into the position and what we can do as a chamber. And so I'm excited to see what you and your team are going to accomplish in the next few years. And that kind of what do you think is coming for Bay County and for the chamber in the next 5 years?
Well, I think you mentioned Becca and the EDA. I think they're going to be driving big things here in the county in terms of advanced manufacturing, especially manufacturing around aviation. So with our great airport, and it just opened some new gates as well. So I think the aviation industry is really going to take off. We'll continue to do revitalization here in Panama City. I think there's a wonderful opportunity. There's a strong relationship with the Beach Chamber and us. I think that can be strengthened. That's something I've been able to do in other areas that I've been part of. So building a team, definitely some goals for the chamber as well that we can talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. When Will Kramer was on the last podcast that we did, and we talked quite a bit about the airport, and believe it or not, this predates you, but when we had the old airport, where Sweet Bay is now, there was actually a lot of argument that they didn't want to move it. And now it seems like this thing that's a no-brainer, it being where it is, because every year it just keeps growing and growing and growing in what it is. And it's become a pretty powerful economic driver in the area. It's incredible to watch and see.
Yeah, it's phenomenal to think, for me, to drive through Sweet Bay and think that was the airport. I almost can't get my head around it. But it is fascinating to look back. And sometimes when I'm around really smart people and great leaders, I think, what are you thinking about today that 10 years from now we're going to look back and go, you see, we took a chance.
Yeah.
One of the things, my mom was the mayor of Orange County. The first elected strong mayor of Orange County, kind of a pioneer for a woman.
Awesome.
But she was instrumental in doing what they call the West Orange Trail. So rails of trails, tens and probably 30, 40, 50 miles now of trails. And it really connected some of those small towns. Huge opposition back in the day.
Is that like bike paths
Bike
and
paths,
walking trails
walking,
and stuff?
yep,
Really?
yep.
No
And
kidding.
but I was home recently, and someone came up to us. We were having lunch and said, "Mayor Chapin, I just want to thank you for those trails. I was completely against it, and
Yeah.
it's one of her success stories. But to think about that, I don't know if I have that type of vision, but and maybe not even that brave to be thinking about those big things. But it takes strong leadership to do that.
Well, it takes a team of people. It's
Yeah.
not, and that's the thing I've learned over the years. It's not just about one person. You really, truly have to have a team. And when I talked to Alan Branch a couple of weeks ago, one of the things he paralleled it to was he's an offensive lineman, right? And sometimes the job is to clear the way for the quarterback and to, the running backs and other people to come in there. And I thought that was a great analogy of somebody in leadership setting the tone, man, because as a leader, it's not just your job to do all the work. It's you set the tone for everybody else and get them to be successful.
Yeah, I think that takes. Uh, uh, I've done all those psychoanalysis, pre-employment type of assessments, and one of the things that comes back, it sounds sort of weird to say, but I have a very low ego, so I think that's helped me succeed. And I don't I'm rarely, if ever, one of the brightest people in the room. I don't mind that. I know where I can contribute. I don't. I like to surround myself with smart people. My mentor, when I was at Disney for 10 years, he was head of Epcot at the time. He became the president of Walt Disney World. So I was able to learn from him and his style, which was really just humble. Surrounding himself with the best people and allowing them to thrive.
Yeah, and you can do so much more when you surround yourself. I think surrounding yourself with people that are far better at things than you are is actually awesome. Like we did that when I started my business to where I've told people I think that I was good at what I did, but I wasn't great, right? And I've constantly tried to add people that are great at their position. And man, it creates something so far beyond wherever you can imagine it when you do that. That's really to me what leadership is about is getting the people that complement what you're trying to get accomplished and letting them run, man. You just set them up with the tools to be successful.
Yeah, it's so much fun and meaningful too. So,
Yeah.
my second in command in High Point, um, we were very close, worked closely together. She was a young lady who's just a superstar. We thrived together, and she ended up, when I left, getting the role of CEO. I have stories from my Winter Park days of team members who are now VPs at Orlando Health.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, so rewarding. And I have had opportunities where I've heard about a job and have gone to a staff member and told them about it, and just said, consider this. This is something you'd be perfect in. So you have to also be willing to let them go too.
Yeah, well, I know Amy's moving along from you too. And,
exactly.
And she is awesome. She's a fantastic person that's done things for the chamber for a while now. But, I think that's a good opportunity for her too. So, seeing people kind of, go on to something else is, I think you can be proud of them too. And that's a good sign of leadership that you can be proud of them.
Yeah, so. I'm extremely proud of her. And the great news is we get to keep her in Bay County, and she'll be working with the school district. So
yeah, it's
a win for her. It's a win for our community.
Absolutely. Very cool. So I know you and I have talked some. So what's some ideas of things that you have coming for the chamber, of things that you'd like to see, whether it's things that you've implemented at previous jobs that you've had or fresh ideas that you have? What are some things you have going on?
Well, one of my first goals was to kind of refresh the brand a little bit. I mean, we've been Chamber of the Year 4 times. Mm-hmm. Carol did an amazing job, but it does take a little bit of fresh eyes to look at things. I moved to High Point not knowing a soul. I moved here not knowing a soul. So there is an advantage to that. It's scary because you don't know what you don't know. But the initial goal was kind of just do some branding and messaging and freshen up our look. So we've done that. Now I think there's opportunities to do. One thing we did in High Point was the Center for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Leadership. So I raised money and we offer programming through that. A lot of chambers will offer classes, Analytics 101, that sort of thing. I really want to do more robust programming.
Yeah.
So, almost like academies. So maybe a leadership academy where you go a 3 or 4 week program and learn different skills on how to be a leader, critical thinking for leaders. Also involve, different industries. So nonprofits, for instance. I mean, they're to offer them the opportunity to build capacity, I think would really benefit our community.
Are those focused more towards business entrepreneurs, business leaders? Who's your target audience for that?
All the above.
Okay.
So anyone
Awesome.
from nonprofits to entrepreneurs to CEOs. We have such talent here. I mean, you've been able to talk to many here.
It's awesome.
To get those folks, and that's the other thing about Bay County. Everyone's so willing. There are no sharp elbows.
Yeah.
Everyone's willing to help out. So to tap into those resources.
Yeah.
Because I do feel another thing that I have noticed is our young professionals here. The chambers, I don't know if they've had a group prior, but under the leadership of Lisa, it's really taken off.
Yeah.
So there's a real momentum. I say I'm not young or professional, so I don't fit in at all. But that group, you look around and there's some fantastic young people.
There's some really great people in that group, and it is awesome to see what Lisa's been able to do with that in her time there. So
yeah, and I encourage them. People like helping people. I mean, if someone comes to you and asks for help, you're going to help. I mean, it makes us feel good.
It's weird being on this side of it now because I don't feel like I'm that age, right? But Kevin Elliott and I were talking about it, and it really is an honor that people come to us and now ask us questions. It's a little weird, but at the same time, it is awesome that we're on that side of it, that we're giving advice to these guys. And it's really cool to see them succeed too.
It does feel strange because I've been successful, I guess, by definition, but it definitely, I feel like I'm a 25-year-old knucklehead.
Yeah. I don't think that ever goes away, right?
I guess not.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's awesome, man. I think that anything we could do to help entrepreneurs in this area. And when you've been in other communities, does it feel that way in other places? It feels that way here. When I lived in Maryland, DC, it just was not that kind of demeanor that people had about helping others. Does it feel different here?
It does feel different. It really does. I think the Southern hospitality helps. I think the lack of people's egos. I think the tight-knit community here where you don't have, Orlando, for instance, you just have a lot of people coming and going in and out of the community, come here for a year or two, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit more consistency of folks here. I'm glad you point that out because I don't know if I would have acknowledged that until you said it. But as I think about my sense of space and sense of community in High Point, which is a little bit bigger than Bay County, but certainly not Orlando, it does feel different here.
We're different because we're not a small community, but we feel like everybody knows everybody, right?
Yep.
And that's a very Bay County thing. Like, I swear to you, we're all connected by one or two connections, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting that it's such a friendly, connected place that way. I love that when we go to the grocery store and the cashier's checking you out, she's going to have a conversation with you, right?
Absolutely.
If that happened in Maryland, if I start talking to the cashier, they're going to look at me like I'm a weirdo, right?
Exactly.
So it's just, it's nice being in a place that's so laid back and friendly from that standpoint.
Laid back, friendly, optimistic, considering what, so many went through 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, that was a shocker to me, is just to see the devastation.
Yeah, it was wild.
And to see, we've had some bad storms in the year I've been here, and to see sort of the PTSD of folks too is pretty significant. But yet, they're excited, they care for their neighbors, they're, moving forward.
As terrible a thing as that was, I've had this conversation with a bunch of folks, and Alan and Branch and I have talked about it extensively. It was an awful thing that happened in the community, but it put us in a position where it really forced our hand on some things that we need to get moving forward, right? And there was already some momentum downtown, right? And so there were some things that, hey, do we do this? Do we do this? And the hurricane took some of those options off the table. It wasn't like, hey, do we do this? It's, well, what do we do, right? And it changed the frame of reference that we have about what we're doing in the town. So it kicked some things into gear that weren't in gear. And the end result of it is, man, I think we're 10 years ahead of where I ever thought we would be downtown. When I bought this building and the one next door, we're light years ahead of that.
And success and energy builds success and energy. So it really becomes exponential. We saw that in High Point. We did a major revitalization initiative, the city of High Point and High Point University and the Chamber. And we've been in the New York Times and all kinds of exciting things. But it does take that first leap. Just seeing the downtown here, I can't imagine what this area is going to be like in 5 years. It's just going to be.
Yeah, it really is. You can't fathom what it's going to be because it's changing so fast.
And in 6 years, we're going to look back and go, why didn't we buy something 6 years ago when Patrick was talking about it on the podcast?
Man, I swear to you, when I bought my office next door, right, people thought I was crazy, right? I didn't pay much for it, but it was in the middle of a blighted area, and the area was bad, and building was beat up, and I bought it. And we put a bunch of money into it and fixed it up. Well, I mean, gosh, now nobody questions that kind of thing. And properties downtown are in demand. People are putting businesses in. And one of the things I'm most proud of is the businesses that are going in downtown and throughout this area are locally owned, right? And it's mom and pop stuff. It's stuff that is truly authentically us. And it's not big box stuff, man. The big box has a place, but in our downtown, it really feels like us. And I love what that feels like. I had never experienced that until the last couple of years, and it's here.
Authentic is a great word because you can go anywhere and go to Barney's or coffee or Starbucks coffee, but to go to a place here in town that's, your neighbor or someone you're going to see at church, it just makes a big difference. And that's a brand. I mean, people will start coming to St. Andrews, to Panama City, to other parts of the county because they want something authentic.
Yeah. It's amazing how different the beach and town is now. You think about the atmosphere and the lifestyle and how it's promoted, what happens out the beach, and there's fantastic things happening out there at the beach. And then what happens on the other side of the bridge over here, it's so dynamically different, but they're both incredible what's happening.
Right. Complementary.
Yeah. Which is cool. You mentioned collaboration between the chambers and, Chris over there at the beach chamber and you guys in town here. How do you see that evolving over time as well?
Business is all about relationships, and he's a Seminole, so that helps.
Yeah, for sure.
But I can see myself when I was his age, running a chamber, and it's an exciting time for him, and a lot really the collaboration is sincere. I think
Yeah.
In High Point, for instance, High Point and Greensboro, they were kind of this rift, and I had board members literally say, why are you talking to the Greensboro guy? And way over there. Well, he was new. He's from Tampa. I'm from Orlando.
Yeah.
Way over there. We'll meet for a beer in 3 miles, and we built a strong relationship and had all kinds of great initiatives that came out of that relationship.
Yeah. That's
You
awesome.
build the trust and the rest comes.
Yeah. And there's always ways to work together.
Yeah.
And being competitors and being cooperative, I think there's a blend there. And that's something, and whether it's chambers or my business or
Right.
any business, I think is something you can take away from that. I mean, I have competitors that are good friends, and we one of my competitors I had on my fishing podcast the other day. But we're all good, man. We find ways to work together and be cooperative, and I think it speaks to the kind of place we live in.
Yeah, I think that spirit will continue too. I really do.
Yeah, very cool. So, we were talking about, this is all about business development, entrepreneurship. So, from your perspective, what kind of advice do you think you would have for business entrepreneurs that are just launching a brand? What are things that you think they should initially do other than join the chamber?
Well, I should be asking you this question because you are exciting, your spirit of entrepreneurship. So I could probably define what I think you are, and that is a lot of creativity, kind of. And I may be wrong, but you're just such a creative guy. And I look at the entrepreneurs that I know. They have a threshold for risk. Their tolerance for risk is high. Obviously you have to have kind of the proof of concept, right? But after that, it's really about, where can you get the resources? I mean, I grew up in my career at Disney or in one of the chambers, I'd go out and play golf or go fishing more likely, and I'd have those relationships. And that's, where you have those relationships. But sometimes entrepreneurs don't have access to those relationships.
And I think that's critical, man. So before I started my company, I actually was a chamber member for about 10 years through my old company. And I swear to you, and I'm not just saying this because of what you do, that when I launched my company, those relationships I had built with chamber members over the 10-year period at my old company really helped me a ton when I started my own company, because I had relationships with people in the community. They knew who I was. They knew what I was about. And when I started, it wasn't like I was starting fresh, man. I had put in that time. And I really feel like my chamber membership, the more I've put into it, the more I get out of it, man.
Yeah, it's like I ran a big YMCA in Sarasota for a few years,
Mm.
and I use the analogy of when you get your membership card, you don't just start getting in shape and losing weight. You actually have to use it and go to the YMCA.
Oh, I didn't figure that out yet.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to, get involved and really use your membership. I think people think you just go swap cards, and it's really about you swap stories and swap ideas. And the other thing that we do here, in addition to kind of building that sense of commerce and engagement that way, I mentioned, the Chamber of Community as well, is we create, and this is something that's really dear to my heart, is there's an urban sociologist, I'm sure you probably heard of him, you're a smart highbrow guy, named Oldenburg, and he has a concept called third place. So the concept is basically your first place is home, second place is work, and then the third places are where you're going to gather, where you're going to see people that you don't see otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
So especially during COVID, I mean, you had, you just a breakdown of those social interactions, right? So even nowadays, you can go from home to the drive-through to work to, go to work, go to home, go to your gated community. You probably see people at church and that sort of thing, but sometimes those are all similar relationships. So a third place, by definition, is a place that's going to bring people together who wouldn't otherwise come together. The chamber is a third place.
Yeah.
A YMCA is a third place, in my opinion. The Rotary is a third place. So trying to create that third place, I think, is something I'm very proud of that the Bay County Chamber has done for a long time. So we'll continue that, to give opportunities to people to come together and give them a reason to come together. I mean, First Friday next week, you've been to there. You've been dressed up many times.
I've pretty much will wear anything you guys tell me to wear.
Exactly.
So.
And, that was my first week, was the first Friday that I was here. And to walk in there and see 300 or 400 people.
Yeah.
I mean, for a chamber this size,
it's a great turnout,
size, I mean, a really good chamber.
It's been that way.
It's 50, 60, 70 people.
Yeah, it's been that way forever. I mean, ever since I started attending chamber events in early 2000s, the attendance at First Friday has been outstanding. And it's just, it's something that everybody participates every single month and looks forward to.
And even, we do a great job with the program. It's an hour long, as you know. And the topics are always interesting, but I don't think people come because, wow, this is going to be a great program. They come because they want to see each other, and kind of have that camaraderie.
You're completely right, because I think that regardless of, sometimes I don't even know what the program is when I go, if I'm not paying attention to my emails or whatever, but I'll go there in the mornings, and that 30, 45 minutes where I get to see everybody in the mornings is a lot of times the only time I get to see those folks during the course of a month. But I know I'm going to see them there. And so it's a great opportunity for networking. If people that are listening to the podcast have not been to First Friday at the Bay County Chamber, and sometimes with the Beach Chamber, you guys team up. And
we're doing that this Friday.
So if you haven't done it, it's awesome. It's a great event. You get to meet a ton of people, and the programs that you guys put on are great, and those are often very entertaining. The jokes are terrible if Bill's telling them, but
it does reflect, as I think about the appeal of this community, is First Friday is sort of that microcosm, right? Because it is goofy and people have fun and people don't take themselves seriously.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, there's not a lot of ego in the room. There's just something special about this community, and that sort of represents that. You can walk in and, I met a young lady 3 months ago, was introduced to her by one of your neighbors here, and she moved here with her fighter pilot husband. She, Ashlyn is her name, and I introduced her around town. She is now the Gulf Coast State Foundation executive director.
Oh, awesome.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I have story after story after story of those folks.
Yeah.
So it's exciting everyone's so welcoming.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great environment. And I'm so glad that the level of, humor and irreverence that the First Fridays have had historically, you've kept that in place, man. I appreciate that. So,
don't worry.
Yeah, well, we plan to keep that going, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So I'm interested too, man. I know we've talked about some new things that you're looking to implement. So how do we, as new entrepreneurs and this new generation of entrepreneurs, come into the marketplace, into being chamber members? How do we continue to engage them, given all the changes in the world today?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people broader than me that are trying to figure that out. One thing we did in High Point is we redid a hosiery mill, but we created a space that would bring people together as a very casual space, and it would allow an HPU student who might be a web designer with an entrepreneur who is designing furniture but doesn't know anything about technology, and a place where people can come together and share ideas. So I think, again, that relationship and creating those spaces where entrepreneurs can interact with other people, not just other entrepreneurs, because there's skills there that, sometimes people don't, we all have strengths and other areas we're not quite as strong in.
And there's so much as an entrepreneur that you don't know, right? And we've talked about mentorship and stuff like that too in the past, that being able to have people that you can pull that information from and, pick their brains about how they've done things. That's so critical to somebody starting a business, because there's just so much you don't know. And we have some really incredible people around here that, folks can lean on for that kind of thing. And I think the chamber is a big part of that, those relationships and knowing who to ask.
Yeah, I think, and that goes back to your question, the programming, the academies, I think we have to be a little bit more deliberate in what we're offering, a little bit more, I don't want to say sophisticated, but a lot of chambers do the normal, marketing 101. I think, we have the resources, as you say, in this community to have, create business plans, where do you find resources, patent, and trademarking. I mean, things that people don't even think about, scalability, all these things that hopefully these entrepreneurs have to address because they continue to grow. Also, I think eventually, and I'm sure, you're a good example where, you probably started small and you have to hire and build a team and get people around you who are super, super bright. There's an art to that. I think Disney was really good about how you hire and train, and there is truly
Absolutely.
I think you miss that a little bit, and it can get sideways pretty quickly.
Yeah, it just takes one bad hire can really impact a lot of people too. And man, I will tell you, in the beginning of me hiring people, I feel like I was not very good at it, and I've had to learn things that I look for, right? And man, we could talk hours about just this, but just to be able to find, knowing how to find the right people, knowing the combination of hard skills and soft skills to look in somebody. My opinion of that over time has flipped almost entirely. Initially I feel like I looked at technical skills so much and not as much of the soft skills. And now I bet you it's completely the opposite. And it's interesting to me that I've completely changed my opinion on that.
Yeah, it is interesting. First of all, you have to obviously find people with shared values. And, sometimes I look at my superstar in the office and go, what does that person have? And I'll use some of those traits to look at other candidates. The hard soft skills. So when I ran a YMCA, I'd get, it was one of the largest Ys in the Southeast, and I would get all kinds of talent coming to, be a wellness director, that sort of thing. And I would take someone with a high school diploma and a great personality over someone with a master's of physiology, based on their personality.
The fit with your team is so important, and to be able to get along with people and to be kind and to be, hardworking, those things matter so much, and somebody's degree is fantastic, right? But can they do these things, and can they work as a team, and can they collaborate with people? I really underestimated how important those things were in the beginning,
Yeah,
and I don't anymore.
especially small teams, especially
Yeah.
nonprofits. I mean, we don't do it for the big paychecks and the short hours,
Yeah.
So we have to have some sense of family within the four walls.
And I think the younger generation too is different in how they view a position than people my age, right? And so, when I guess when I was younger, I felt that, achievement and job position and compensation were these things that were critically important to me. And I think that the younger generation, the impact that their job has in the world and in their life is a pretty significant factor, man. They want to know that what they're doing makes a difference. And when those kind of things can be tied into meaning of the position that you have, I mean, what y'all do every day, you're helping to make businesses successful in Bay County, right? And the better job that you guys do at your job, you're making a true impact of helping people to build. I'm a perfect example of it, man. Without my chamber membership and my relationships that I've had through those things that we've done, I would never be in the position that we're at now. I've had so much support from the chamber. You guys have truly been an integral part in us building our business. So,
Well, I appreciate that. I'm
yeah,
glad we can be part of your success. Don't forget us when you're,
yeah.
big and mighty, bigger and mightier. But it's also
That's
nice.
why. It's why when you asked me to wear a Snoopy costume to First Friday, I'm like, yeah, man, I got
Yeah,
you.
that's
So,
right. Well, and you also, we appreciate getting that engaged person. Um, hopefully they're successful and then they give back. So you're on our board.
yes, sir.
And, you're a resource for us for anytime we need you.
Yep.
So it's great that, through one of our programs, whether it's leadership, whether it's one of these programs we're talking about implementing, if you can get people engaged, then they can move through the spectrum of opportunities and grow both professionally, personally, and give back as well. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not rocket science.
No, it's interesting the journey though, because you start off and you're trying to build relationships and build up a business, and then you kind of find yourself into these other things, and you make more relationships, and then you find yourself later on in your career, and now I'm helping to serve in a capacity where I'm facilitating those things for other folks. It's a wild journey, and something that I've found is pretty darn rewarding to be able to look back and be like, man, that really helped me get there.
Yeah.
So, yep, awesome. Well, yeah, there's something I want to ask you about too. So you're an avid climber, right? And you have climbed some of the highest mountains in the world, right? How do you think that experience and what you've gone through to achieve those things has helped you in your business life? I think metaphorically, there's a lot of things there that I think that are probably lessons that you've been able to tie into your life. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The mountains is sort of something I got into as I got older because the Ironmans and the adventure racing was starting to take its toll. But in all of those, I think, the training is always the hardest. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
So being prepared is always most important, whether, to get to that start line, you better be prepared. Just like if you're going into a meeting or you've got an initiative that you're going to launch, you need to be prepared.
Yep, absolutely.
One thing I probably haven't learned is, it is scary to fail. And you have to, I haven't quite accepted, failure yet. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that drives me. I haven't had too many failures in that regard, but they will come,
I think they always come, and you'd be able to fight through them and the lessons that you learn from them. I think failure is the greatest teacher of anything in our lives. And failing is, only a bad thing if you let it be a bad thing.
Yeah,
you can make it a good thing. So
climbing can be very individual. Ironmans, marathons ultra marathons can be very individual, but you do have to surround yourself with people throughout the journey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a partner who's willing to put up with that nonsense. You have to have coaches. You have to have, support people, just like a business.
Yep.
One thing we learned, my wife and I, she was a Disney person. We met and we moved to Sydney, Australia during the Olympic Games. I was with Disney, so they sent me over there.
No kidding.
And she was an international Rotary scholar. And so we moved there for a year. We got the travel bug, which I already had. And we returned, kind of saved every penny and took a year off and went around the world. and fascinating, curious mind, I think helps.
Yeah.
But our mantra really became, there's always a solution.
Yeah.
And we've taught our daughter that, since she was able to talk, and to have that mindset, there truly is always a solution.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a cliche. It sounds like something you'd read on get help kind of poster type of thing. But for me, it's a part of my life. So there is always a solution. If there's avalanche, potential there, well, there's going to be some decision making, and there is a solution. There's other routes.
When you got to be creative, and you got to be prepared, and you got to be informed, and there's a lot of elements to solving problems that way. And I think that's a good point, though, that there is a solution. You just got to work hard to find it.
Yeah, exactly.
So very cool. Well, that's awesome. There's also something else I want to ask you about, and I think I don't know how many people know about this, but you're also a kidney donor, right? And so tell me about donating a kidney, and also this month is it Give Life month?
Yeah, Give Life month. Yeah, well, I do some self promotion here, not because of me, but because how important it is. I like to share my story because it's such an easy thing to do. This goes back to relationships you build within chambers. So in Winter Park, we ran a leadership program. I was in that, even as CEO, I went through the leadership program. And one of my classmates, it was a big class, so we didn't get real close, but I was Facebook friends with her, and she would post things about her husband who needed a transplant. And I said, what the heck? I'll go do it and get tested. And I hadn't met him. I hadn't done anything, socially with him or professionally with him. And it was a remarkable experience. I've been to 55 countries traveling. He has since been able to travel in the 6 or 7 years that he's had my kidney, which he probably wouldn't be alive. And he's been to 2 or 3 kidneys 2 or 3 countries that I haven't been to.
Yeah.
So my other kidney's been to 58 countries.
Well, I would count that towards your total.
I have to catch up. I have to go to Cuba and Scotland, places I haven't been.
Yeah.
But I was running a 10K 6 weeks after. I was out of the hospital.
Really? That's awesome.
In 48 hours. I mean, when he came to the door, we were on the same floor, and it was like he was a new person.
Yeah.
It's like they're getting a new fuel filter. So it was a remarkable experience, and I do share it because it's so, the days of having a 20-inch scar on your side is gone. I have a 2-inch scar on my belly button. Nothing has negatively impacted me. And I've shared this story with a guy who always cut my hair in Winter Park, talked with him, and he ended up becoming a donor himself.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the more I can get the word out, I appreciate you asking me that.
And it's an easy way for somebody to help save a life, man. And it's like you said, the long-term impact on you is nothing really. I mean, you just need the one. So and one of my good friends, his wife had a kidney transplant. It's changed everything in her life that way too. So it's awesome to see when that kind of stuff happens, and to be able to make that kind of impact through what you did is fantastic. So,
well, again, thanks for asking the question, because it is really
that's super important. That's one of the most important things that we could do is help somebody else. So, well, very cool. So, getting back to some of the chamber things, I love where we're going as a community, and I think that there's so much economic activity over the next decade, man. What kind of industries do you think are really going to be standing out in our community? I know out at the airport, there's a ton of stuff going on there. What do you see coming for Bay County next?
I think industry around the aviation kind of industry, whether it's advanced manufacturing, whether it's overhaul, whether it's, we have a wonderful asset in Haney Technical College. To have that in our community is preparing young people. Going to college for us was kind of the, what we all did. Now that's not the case. So I think we're going to be able to build our workforce around this advanced manufacturing, some of this advanced industry. Tourism's always going to be number one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we've got to diversify. And the EDA is doing a great job in that.
And it seems like they have projects that are getting announced all the time now, to where it's big stuff too. It used to be to where the projects that were getting announced were much smaller, and now it's 1,200 jobs, 1,400 jobs, things like that. So it's incredible to see the evolution of what Becca and her team are doing.
Yeah, I'm not an economic development person expert, um, but when you think about the state of Florida, I mean, w- where are you going? Like, I mean, there's not much land available. I mean, you
Hmm.
may go for IT or something in some big community, but the Panhandle is so primed
Yeah,
for whatever we want to become.
yeah,
And I think what's nice about Bay County is you can. I think you mentioned it's not huge. It's big enough, but
hmm,
it's not giant where you can literally still get people around the table.
yeah,
So you get the mayor, you get the chamber, you get the hospital, you get the education, where you can help plan out what our community wants to look like, and that's critical
yeah.
because you can look all over the country on places that maybe there wasn't as much forethought.
Well, and that's the beauty of where we're at in this time and place too in this community is we have some ability to really influence what we're going to be 40, 50 years from now. That groundwork's getting laid today, man. And when we talked about the elections that just happened a couple days ago and things are going on that way, it's important to get those right people in those positions so that we are intelligently planning and strategically going after the things of what we want to be. And I see the people that are putting in that effort. I'm glad to have them.
Yeah, and the fact that they can work together, and like I said, no sharp elbows.
Critical.
I mean, they really care. That's
Hmm.
another thing I really noticed when I moved here, and is people really care about their community. Again, maybe it was there all the time. Maybe it was birthed out of the coming together after the hurricane. But whatever it is,
Hmm.
people want others to succeed. They want their community to succeed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they want, I mean, I think another, I mentioned Orlando being kind of transient, is I think people here want their kids, their grandkids to stay here. So they
Yeah,
are invested maybe a little bit more than some other places.
absolutely. I've totally agree. I want my kids to have the opportunity to be able to be here. And we've talked about it before. If I don't do those things to help implement those things so that my kids have opportunities here when they get to that age where they're in the workforce and want to start a family, and I'm not doing those things, then shame on me, man. I should be doing that because we can build the community that we want for our families, for kids that, generations to come.
Yeah, it's a lofty aspiration, but we've got some really bright people in
Yeah,
this.
it's achievable though.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
great
we're
leaders. I
we're
mean,
doing it, man. It's happening.
we haven't
So,
talked about our school system, but to
mm,
have Mark McQueen, General Mark McQueen, as our
mm,
superintendent, um, it just one little part of our community is just contagious, right?
yeah,
I mean, and that's all over. It's at our university colleges, it's at the EDA, it's at the airport.
yeah,
I mean, genuine people who genuinely want to improve their community.
yeah, yeah. Those are true leaders, man. And Mark McQueen is one of my favorite humans on this earth. Also a kidney donor.
I know.
Yep. So when he was the city manager for Panama City, he had just donated a kidney, and literally when he started that position, I think he was still recovering from kidney surgery, and then the hurricane hit and all that, and poor Mark had he's up to his elbows and stuff with all that, but I'm glad to have him serving in any capacity in our community.
Absolutely. He spoke to our, we had a class of um, junior leadership bay, so high school students who went through a leadership program,
Yeah.
and he spoke the other night at the graduation. And, you know, I think I was as moved as anyone in the room. And
Yeah, man.
so just a great individual.
Absolutely, man.
And again, I think his investment and his time and energy and his passion will improve our school system by leaps and bounds,
Yeah.
which we have to have in order for Becca and her team to succeed,
Yep.
in order to attract these businesses. Because if we don't have that, we may have aspirations of one thing for our community, but by default, if we don't have talent and we don't have people staying here because it's a great place and they've received a great education, they leave, we'll end up with maybe what we didn't necessarily want to do.
Yeah. And I don't know that I ever realized that interconnectedness on things, Patrick, until I went through Leadership Bay through the chamber back years ago. I think it was early, middle 2000s or something. But, that opened my eyes to how those things in the community are connected together, where if the educational system's good, that makes it easier for Becca to get people to look at relocating businesses here, and workforce center working with Becca on that helps bring talent to those. There's so many ways that everything is together. And when those leaders are cooperative and collaborative, man, we can do some great things.
Yeah, it's real magical.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I'm gonna ask you one more question today. And so the people that are business owners,
yes, I'm a
and
Seminole. Oh, I thought that was going to be the question.
So the business owners that are looking at Bay County and they're looking at investing in Bay County and relocating their business or whatever, what would you say to them? Tell them about Bay County.
Well, I would tell them, first of all, a lot of what we discussed. Becca tells a great story of when she brings people down. I mean, big time company CEOs from Chicago and elsewhere. Is she'll go around to all the leaders, and they've pulled her aside and said, when did you send the script around? And there isn't a script. We just all believe.
Yeah.
So it's obviously we've got the similar things that attracted me here. We've got the beautiful beaches, the parks, the trails, the optimism. You look around and you can see the positive things happening in the community. It's hard to articulate. It's almost like you have to experience it to really appreciate what what you have. I would say opportunity is the opportunity.
Yeah.
In many ways, is that we are, we're not PhDs. Maybe we're freshmen entering college, and we have a lot of time ahead of us to get smarter and do things the way that we want them to happen. So something's working because we are certainly attracting folks.
I like the way you said that, though. It's almost like you have to feel it, right? And what's always been interesting to me is we have Tyndall Air Force Base nearby here. And, a lot of times this is people's last stop before they retire. And there's so many people that choose to stay here. And the thing that you hear is just that, the warmth of the community. And like I think when they get here, they feel what that's like. And there's so much support that Bay County has for our military bases too, man. That's really ingrained in our DNA. And
more so than I think people understand. I mean, the military people sincerely talk about that to us and to their superiors.
I've heard it 100
Bay
times,
County
man.
is something special. Every, I would assume most, if not all, communities welcome their, the military into their community. But here, it's more than just welcoming. It's inviting them into your home.
Yeah, it's sincere and authentic from most everybody in our community that we genuinely feel that way. And you're right, it's a feel thing. And I think when you get in this community and you start immersing yourself amongst the people, you can't help but feel that.
Yeah. The in Orlando, all I see is Delta and Southwest planes flying over. Here, I still look up in the sky. It's like I'm an 8th grader, know, and I think I probably sent my brothers, 15 videos the first 12 days I was here.
You're like, look, it's F-35.
Exactly. But another I think attribute is the work around our tourism. It's not just a glossy picture in a magazine. It's like the sports complex. It is beach restoration. It's safety. So that's another, tourism being our biggest asset right now, we have to protect that.
Yeah, and there's some really important things happening at the state level that people need to make sure that they're vocal about too, because the funds that go towards promoting our tourism in the area, and not just our area, but through the entire state of Florida, is at risk right now.
Yeah, we have, I think latest figure I saw was $3.1 billion spent annually here by our visitors. 35,000 jobs are related to the tourism industry. The one thing that, I think people forget, I wasn't here then, but 10 or so years ago, I think spring break looked a lot different than it does today.
Oh, yeah.
And that was people coming to Florida because that's where they go versus a targeted effort to bring people, families, to bring them different times of the year. So instead of 3 months of the year, spring break and businesses shut down, and those were some pretty crazy times, I think.
Yeah, it used to be a very short duration where it was peak season, and through the genius of Dan Rowe and his team out there, they have taken that thing and targeted sports marketing, and now it's almost a complete year-round tourism-based industry that we have, and it's unbelievable. And that wouldn't happen if Dan and the TDC didn't have resources to be able to promote that and grow that to create a year-round economy. I can't tell you how critical that is that Dan and his team are able to continue doing what they're doing. So folks need to get in contact with their state representatives and let them know that, that needs to stay in place.
It's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to go back to spring break when I was in college and coming over here in Panama City Beach, I don't think we want that.
No,
we want,
we definitely don't.
We want year-round families. So hopefully that doesn't pick up steam over in Tallahassee, but it is important. And I think it's also important that we educate folks on it isn't just marketing to people. But I also think, we both have traveled a lot and we'll go on destinations to go fishing or whatever else. You have to be invited, right? I mean, you have to know about it. If you're not invited by this lodge because they're not marketing, you're going to be invited by this lodge. I mean, it's not going to be a whole lot different. People are going to come to Florida, of course, because of the beaches. But unless you're inviting them and showcasing and selling them, it's easy to go somewhere else. Yeah. So anyway, the TDC and both Visit Panama City and Visit Panama City Beach are so important to this community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully all that will remain as is, and they'll see the positive side of what's going on and decide that that's, not the direction we want to go with the bill that's being discussed. But
this is a much bigger topic. We're not going to get to it, but it does make me think in the kind of theme of our conversation of just how everyone uses dysfunction. I'll use that word. I don't know a better one at this moment, but just our politics, both in Tallahassee and Washington. And there's diverse opinions here, of course, but we still work together. We really do. And that's something that's, I think, really unique in our community. So even if we have different opinions and, there's different projects that people want and don't want, at the end of the day, there is a sense of community that is unique.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And I really, truly appreciate what you and your team do every day to help facilitate those things. And again, man, we wouldn't be where we're at without the chamber. And for folks that aren't involved in the chamber, I definitely encourage you to get involved in the chamber. It can do wondrous things for your business, man.
And your soul and your friendships. I mean, it really is. It's something special. We have really fun people.
And we have a great time, man. I mean, like the First Friday events and the different events, after hour stuff. I mean, there's so many things that you guys do that are legitimately a good time, man. Y'all are a ton of fun. The golf tournament's always a great time. Get to catch my fish on the golf course when I go. So, but it is something that if you're a business owner, I would certainly recommend that you contact the chamber and get some more information about becoming a member.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. We're always a resource for those folks, those businesses, and an advantage that we have being the size of chamber and being in a community we have is we have the ability to pick up the phone and call, someone at the clerk's office or the city hall or, a resource. So,
you do it all the time. You've done it for me hundreds of times where you guys help facilitate something for us. So
I really like my job. You're making it sound great. It is great.
Well, you're doing good things, man.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to see what the future holds for you in the chamber. And man, I certainly appreciate you being here and having these conversations with us today, man. And hopefully we'll get to talk some more soon.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, y'all, I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of The Road to Rich, and we will talk to you soon. Please tune in again.